Hi guys, welcome to Android tutorials by DURGASOFT and Sandeep. And today let's talk about the list view. And previously we have spoke about the list view that will simply display you a list of strings. And today what we're gonna do is we actually used a default array adapter in order to render the text to that particular list view. But today we're gonna write something different. I mean, we're gonna use the same array adapter, but we write our own custom adapter, because this array adapter is having only the text but not the images. But we want that some text or some custom array adapter along with the text and the picture, so that we can also make the Picasso useful here. So let's talk about the adapter first. So adapters are generally used for they're kind of some kind of helpers to render the data dynamically to the list view, or that could be a grid view or any kind of container that you're talking about. So adapters will generally help you to segregate your logic and it will generally have a get view, where this get view will be called each time you had a row that is getting rendered dynamically. So you should always know this when a list view is getting displayed. For example, let me show you one basic example so that we actually seen before. See that on the device. This is the list view tutorial that we've seen yesterday, and here you see there are a list of text views that you see in a list. So one thing you have to always know that is the list view doesn't render each and every item that a list view contains, or if a list view contains 100 of items, it doesn't take the space for 100 items at one go. That is because, so this is called recycler technique that list view uses. So this is same as this is same in iOS at for some level. It is same in the iOS, or this technique is same that we do in a lot of the mobile applications when you are rendering so much of huge data into a list view or into a grid view. So the recycling technique is that if you had 100 strings, so you don't see that list view will render the 100 strings at a time. What it simply does is, here you will be able to see a couple of 15 strings here. So these 15 strings will be rendered first. So when you scroll this up, each item gets rendered here dynamically by simply calling the get view. So what happens to the top view? The top view 0th location will be becoming 0th in the bottom now. In the sense, the same row will be reused for the rest of the data, where it will help you to render back the same locations again and again. So you're using the same views again. For example, Eclipse, this is the one row view that got created when you run your program. So when I scroll, this particular will be going up, which means it's never not actually visible to a user when I scroll it up. When I scroll, like Eclipse or Gingerbread is actually getting disappeared, or they get gone out of your visibility. And there you see in the bottom, you see some other things coming up again. So in this sense, they are not actually adding up something, or they are not something keeping on using they keep on using the same views again and again. For example, if I had lollipop here, so I don't generally create something else again in the bottom. Instead, when I scroll this, the same view is actually removed from here and used somewhere below for other component. So the recycler technique will help you when there are list of items, when you have so many list of items where you can't see them all together. So there are only the couple of things loaded at a time. For example, in your phone, as this is a Nexus tab size, you are able to see so many things because the height of this Nexus tab is more than 7 inch. So if it is a mobile or something, you will at a time would be seeing only 6 or 7 fields at a time, where the 7 fields get reused or recycled in order to get them, or in order to load other views, or in order to render other data present in the adapter. So adapter generally works with the recycling technique. So from 5.0 lollipop versions, now we are also facilitated with the recycler views, where it also does the same thing. And anyhow, we will talk about them in the later views and all, when we talk about the material designs and material design concepts. So this particular recycler view concept should be understood very well, because if you are using this particular custom adapters, this thing will be coming into the picture every time. For example, if you had checkboxes at the end and you keep on checking them, and when you scroll them upside and you come back, the view will get refreshed, or the recycler view has used it somewhere bottom. So when you check it here, the same view used in the bottom, so that item is also checked at the same moment. So which means that the same view is getting used in some other where or in the bottom. So if you check the first item, the other item which is using the same row will get the item also checked. Or if you are unchecking if you are checking all the items here, you unchecked at particular position, when you scroll it up or down, you see some of them are also unchecked in the bottom, because they are being used, resized or reused the same row view. So that is why you find this kind of bugs. We actually call it as bubble, or you call it as recycler algorithm, so whatever it is. So you find them at some point, you find them a little bit different, or your application is working in a different way. But that is because the lack of knowledge on this particular recycler view will fetch you new problems. Like if you are using something different, I mean, if your list view will only contains of normal text or images, that's fine. But when you are putting some checkboxes or radio buttons, where you check few of them and you uncheck few of them, and you go the selection, the total the contents that selected and the total contents that not selected will be ending up with some bug, or at least you get the buggy data. Because if you understand this particular recycling view very clearly, when you check this first item, it is also checking it somewhere when you scroll down, because the same view is reused somewhere. In the same way, if you uncheck the item that got checked here and you come upside or you go down, you see the same view which had checked before gets unchecked without the user, because if you are checking it here, it checks at some point. If you are unchecking it here, it unchecks at some point too, where this particular row view is used or reused somewhere. So it's always that, and keep in mind that recycling is actually used in any kind of list views. So recycler will give you more advantages if you use that wonderfully, and that is one of the best way that you can display so much of huge content. And ListView is one of the container that we spoke yesterday. This will be very easy to render any kind of data, or it will be allowing you huge amounts of data to be seen by user very easily in very less space. So let's get to the work now. And I had a small ListView adapter. Of course, I didn't write anything new, but I'm just writing a ListView adapter. I gave it a name, ListView adapter, and I'm extending the array adapter that was previously present, or the default array adapter. So array adapter is by default present, as we see in the code that was previously present. Array adapter is something by default, so which is present in, if you see the import statement, you can understand where it is coming from. It is in Android widget.array adapter. You have this in the widget package with the name array adapter class. So I'm actually using the same adapter that was present by default, but now I want to write something custom. I want to write some custom array adapter here. And apart from array adapter, you had base adapter, you had cursor adapter, and different kinds of adapters that you write. So generally cursor adapter is used when you actually have some data coming up from a database or something like that, and you want something to update that right there when user checks it or changes it there itself. So each and every adapter had its own usage and its own place of application. So you have to make sure that what adapter fits you or what adapter fits to your requirement, and then select it and go ahead with it. So I generally prefer writing my own adapters, so it will be very easy for me even there is changes in the future. For example, if I had so many images along with the checkboxes, I always write my own adapter, because in future I had some more data to be coming in, so I would add another text view to the row view, and it will be reflected immediately. So if I use a normal adapters or normal array adapter that is present by default, it had some constraints. Yes, it had some constraints. So when you want to display the rows in a different way, or if you had a different requirement, I always suggest you to go with a different custom array adapter that you want, and you can write your own adapter. So that is the best part of Android. Every time you keep on writing your own custom widgets, custom array adapters, and you feel very good when you use something which is written by you, and that is something which you have to think of very proud. So let's get into the business now, and my custom array adapter name was ListView adapter, and I'm extending the array adapter class which is by default present. So the content that I'm going to give to the array adapter is string, which means that I'm now going to use the same kind of string data. So as we know, the models are objects that come. You can use any kind of objects that comes in. So whenever you had a new model of objects, or you had a new kind of object, then if you are loading the objects inside the list view, then you can change simply this particular string to that particular object name, so that the whole array adapter now will be expecting those objects into the get view or into this adapter. So as of now I had only the string, so I'm going with the strings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load a list of images in my list view. So the present view that you see is this, simply a list of text that you see here. But now I'm going to replace these text views with image view. Of course I'm not going to put it very huge, but I will give it a particular size. I could give it 50 by 50 or anything a different size, so it looks good enough to check it out. So now what I'm going to do here is, so I'll have a get view method, and let's just give a small overview on here. So list adapter, this is an constructor for array adapter. Whenever you're going to set some objects to this, or whenever you want to put some data to this one, you're going to write this thing here when you set to the adapter, like in this way. You had a new array adapter here, instead you will have a custom adapter name in place of array adapter, and all the things will be same in the sense whatever that is expected by list view adapter, that things comes in. So let me write that to you here and show you. And my adapter, let me use the same adapter name, or write custom adapter, C adapter is fine. Adapter equals to new, and my adapter name is ListView adapter, and it expects context, that means this, and it expects text view resource ID, or it could expect a layout or something. So I can write something dot layout dot some list view there, list item, which I'm gonna create now. So of course it gives me error here, but I will create it later. And it expects string of objects. So now my objects is values here, so I will replace these values with list of image URLs or any other URLs that, or list of images, it could be anything. So now I'm gonna design this. Let me create this. So now this is what I'm gonna do when I want to simply change the normal adapter to the custom array adapter. So this is my custom array adapter that I'm going to put values inside it, and I'm giving this adapter to the ListView, so that ListView will be rendering or using this adapter to render the data dynamically. So let's go back, and always an adapter consists of GetView, which is a very crucial part of this adapter, where each list item is loaded here. In the sense, everything you see, I mean, if you see list of items of 5 items at a time on your screen, this GetView will be called for 5 times, and it will load 5 items from the array list that you send from the Java or from your activity. So it will load 5 objects in a row, or it could be 5, or depends upon the screen size. So how many items you can be visible, that will be actually calculated in the background by Android framework itself, and it calls this GetView that many times. So when you scroll that again, whenever you scroll a particular part, or when you scroll down a bit, so whenever a new view has to get created, again this GetView method calls, and it will be creating a new value for that particular row again, using the row that which got hidden in the top. So when some row is hidden on the top, so the same row will be getting reused in the bottom again. So it's something like a roller caster. You keep on rolling it, and the same thing comes again. So here you take the view, which is a convert view, which means that that particular row view. So you're inflating that for each and everything, because you create this list item only for once. Let's create that now here. And yes, and I got a normal row here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some text view as well as some image view here. So the orientation is vertical, so no problem. I'm gonna put first an image view, and then I'm gonna give it some image as source, as we spoke in the last tutorial. So I'm taking drawable. I think I don't have anything, and let me take it from somewhere and copy it here. We copy from my desktop. I'm using the same tiger.jpg or jpg into the new code. I'm putting that in my drawables and paste. So by default, I'm not gonna give it any URLs as of now. We'll speak that about in the coming in coming time anyhow. So now you have this, and which is taking a match parent or wrap content. Yes, it's taking wrap content, fine. And wrap content is something it took the whole view, but I don't want it to take the whole view because it's a very big very big image. So instead of using that, then let's go with another image, the same cloud image. Yeah, that thing. Then we're gonna copy it from here to the drawable and paste it here. Cloud upload. So that's what I did. So cloud upload, and I'm gonna make this horizontal so that I'll have a text view now here. So I'll have a plain text view or medium small text view. We'll take a plain text view. Everything is fine. So we're gonna sit beside this. We're gonna sit beside this, and the height of it, let's make it wrap content, and give it padding 5 dp. Give it a gravity, center vertical. It didn't take. Oh, okay, got this. So yes, now it sits beside this, and let me give it a color, text color, similar like before. let's take the color primary. What's the color that is being used for the color primary? It's blue. Let's go with the dark. Go dark a bit, but not big. Image name, and let me give a padding for this as well. I'm giving a 5 dp, and it looks a bit different from here and here. So my row is gonna look is having, or my particular list item is with one image view and with a one text view, and I'm gonna change this image view to let us use the same thing, and let me put this as a text, or let me put that as title. Yes, title. And this list item now consists of an image view and a list view. Now for here, after loading this list item, now I can take a couple of text view things here, text view, and I took it as a title, so I make it title v dot find view by id, or dot id dot title, title. It has to give you. So it gives you title there, and also you need an image view here to show you that. I'm writing an image view here. Image img, and v dot find view by id, r dot id dot, it's image view, not all image view. Now you need to cast it, so you just cast it to the image view, and you got image view and title ready. So now you can change it at any point of time. In the sense, this get view will be called for each row that you actually make it. So each row, in the sense, that could be title, that could be any other image. So right now let me put let me set this text in this way. Text, I'm putting what the data had, objects. So objects dot get index of position. The position actually comes from here. Get view will return you a position of that particular row item. It could be 0, 1, 2 to any number of in any number of items, and convert view is some view that this particular row is actually been rendered at that particular time. So view group is the parent, so which means that the whole thing is actually called as view group. So now I just setting the title to each part of it. In the sense, for each position I'm putting the titles there, so which means that while rendering, each time the get view will be called, and it will be setting the data from the objects dot get position. According to the position, it will be setting that item to that particular row. So in this sense, for each row you will see this get view method has got called. So let me see that, or let me show you that on log for a clear picture. So in get view, position or row view number dot plus position. So that's what the log is. So log will be displaying you the row view position, and depending upon the scroll you scroll, so you will understand how many times the get view calls for the first time, and when does the rest of the contents is getting called for the second time, or later stages, how actually the get view works. So right now we have had one more error here, seeing that. Oh, so arrays dot as list, give us values inside there. That's done. So the reason here it gives you error is it's expecting a array list, but our list of values are actually in a string. So I better make it, I made it as an array of list, but it's actually expecting array list instead of list. So instead of making this again an array list, I'll simply make this list, which is there is not much difference here anyhow, and that is how it done. It does. No, I just changed it. Okay, it has to get changed here as well. Fine, they're gone, and let's run this and see. And here it goes, and let's see how it just rendered there. And you see that each of that item had image beside that and a text below that beside it, which has been coming from the activity. These texts were coming from the activity. And let's see the row views. So in get view, the number of rows for the first time it got created is only from 0 to 9. So what about the rest? So you see them. I'll show you that here. While scrolling, you see the logs coming up. So let me put that upside. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. 9 rows has been created. It's completely 0 to 9 in the sense 10 rows has been created. As this is my device is big enough to incorporate 10, GetView has actually iterated for 10 times. So how about more than that? So you definitely had some other items in the below, but what happens then? So when I scroll, then the GetView is getting called, which means that whatever the views got in the up or that which are getting covered in the top are getting reused and they comes in the bottom. So that is why you see the GetView is getting called only when I scroll it, but not all the items, all the 24 items are being, all the 25 items are not being called just for one time, or they're not just on one, definitely not on one go, because you can't load all the 1000 items. If you had 1000 or 2000 items, your ListView never gonna do that for you in just one time, because GetView is something that will be called only that many number of times. For first time, how many your list or how many list rows can your particular mobile incorporate, so that it will be easy for the user that the loading has taken with very less time, and the adapter will help you to load the data in a very beautiful manner. So it is one of the best technique I see with the ListView, and this technique will help you out in many hard situations where you had so much of huge data to show in very minimal place and give it in different options. So of course you can give the check boxes here or any other edit icons or delete icons, and you can use you can simply delete it from the row and notify data set changed, and you definitely see that something happening in here. So let me tell you that as well. So it is one of the easy technique that you can do. So if you want to delete something from this list, at any point, because you can't again go to this particular main activity and delete it here and apply this list adapter again. So that is not a way that you can actually do it, because you have to, if you delete it from your activity and reload, you're reloading the list adapter again. In the sense, you are recreating the whole view again and again. But that is actually the huge task, and that is which not recommended to do unless if you have that kind of requirement. So what I'm going to do is, when I click on an image, it will delete this particular set or that particular row out of that list items. So let me write the view on click listener, that can, and here it is. So what I'm going to do is, so whenever you click on that image or here on this image, on this click, I'm gonna remove this item, or I'm gonna remove that or delete from the row, so that it won't and it simply reloads, or it just adjusts the whole contents to the list view again without recreating or reloading the list view again and again. So how is that we gonna do? So when I click on that one, so now what I'm gonna do, so take this objects dot remove and location. So location is nothing but the position on which you click. So only doing this will not actually adjust your list view, or which doesn't actually reflect it immediately. So you have to call notify dataset change, which will notify the list view that I just changed some contents in the list view. So please make sure that you are actually reflecting the same thing. So the notify dataset change will help you to readjust the whole list view items after removing an icon, or if you are removing an item from the list view. And let's run that and see. And I just see that something happened here. Unsupported operation on click objects, or okay, click unsupported operation. So perform click. Okay, image should be clickable first, or make that clickable. Clickable, true. Let's debug that and see what actually happens there. So in order to debug that, you don't need anything to do. You just click on the icon that present here, which shows you debug, and you simply say OK while your application should be running. In case if it's not running, please run that and see, and click that OK, and let me touch that. So when I click on that, the position is 1. Yes, I clicked on position 1, and I'm removing the thing from the objects, so which means underneath the expression you had a list of them and 1. Okay, say that there it comes and it's actually crashing it there because of some issue like saying unsupported operation. So anyhow, we'll see that later. Anyhow, it's not our agenda. So fine, because of some issues this I'm not actually showing it as of now, but now you can see the title that's coming on the screen, and you can see the image view that coming on the side of it. So everything is this actually is a list item adapter or list view adapter, is a custom array adapter that you actually see here. So now we just put this icon there, which is a static icon. We are not changing it any time, or we are not changing these icons dynamically, but I want some way which will make these icons to load by default onto that. So firstly, if you want to load an icon from URL or from any kind of website or from a web service or from any URL link, it will take you some time, and it's some kind of download task, because you have to download the image from that particular URL and you have to fit that into your image view. In this sense, you get the bitmap or you download the bitmap and you set that image bitmap to the image view. So which is actually a very huge task, and that doesn't happen just like that. It's not something very easy like setting the text view dynamically in a get view, because loading and downloading the image and setting it back to the image view is something a time consuming process. It doesn't happen similarly like you take some data from your activity and do it. So though you had URLs and everything with you, fetching the URL or getting the image from that URL is actually some time taking process, at least the way the application works. So what you have to do it here, I suggest, or I actually follow Fresco or Picasso kind of image loaders, where it will help you to manage even the huge number of images coming into the application. So they have different kinds of options with them, and let's go with the options that were present for us there, and let me show you how actually the Picasso works. So this is Picasso official site, and it's a powerful image downloading and caching library. So as I told you, image from any URL will actually take some time because it downloads the image and then it caches to the library. Caching is a very important technique while you're loading multiple images on your application, because each and every image that downloads actually stays on the memory. If you put that on a heap, each image could be of any size. It could be 1 MB, 2 MB and 3 MB. And let me tell you this, any application that you run on your phones or on any phones, I mean it could be any configuration, the maximum memory that an application is allotted is only 28 to 30 MB, which means that your particular application completely should run inside that space. In the sense, that space is actually allotted in heap, which means that if you run out of that 32 MB or 28 to 32 MB on heap, you are going to face out of memory errors. So out of memory errors cannot be handled by the time they get or by the time when they are crashing. It will just crash your program, or it just crashes your application. So it's always that be careful, don't always keep on loading your images without caching in them. So caching, it will help you to get your images out of heap and put it elsewhere. So whenever you are actually trying to download the same image which is already got downloaded, so now what this image loading libraries does is, they don't download the image again onto the heap. Instead, the image which has moved to cache is reused again. So for example, if I had this URL which I'm used for the very first time, so it gets downloaded and it gets preserved in your cache. So when this image actually was present in the cache, when I try to load that again, or when I'm trying to load that the same image that which was downloaded before, now this particular image will be checked in the cache whether it's present or not. So if it is already present, then there is no necessity to download that again, instead of simply wasting the mobile data or the network, or simply you're wasting the time of the user anyhow in order to download that same image which is present in cache. So what it does is, it doesn't download that again, instead it will bring back it from the cache and it will show you right then. So the images, some images which you actually already downloaded and present in the cache, they will be shown right then before, without calling or without making any service call, or without calling it from the server, or without downloading it from that particular link. So this is one of the easiest way that when you had so many lot of images coming into your application, and still you want to keep them keep showing them and without making any kind of out of memory errors or something. So this particular Picasso is a very good image loading technique, and it's basically very easy for someone who actually are beginning or in the beginning stages of their application development. So recycling and applications or download cancellation in an adapter is being completely handled by Picasso. Of course, there were other image loaders as well, which are like image loader library or Fresco, and Fresco is one of the Facebook's image loader technique. Their Facebook's Android team actually made this library. Let's go Android library. So it is also an image management library which has been started by Facebook Android developers. So it will be taking care of your image loading, and there are different kinds of a huge amount of options present or given by this Fresco. So moreover, this were absolutely free, and that is some kind of huge news for anyone. And it puts simply into the Android memory and lot more than Picasso does. Fresco is something more advanced, and you add so many other options. But the way the image loading and caching technique will be almost similar to all the image loader techniques. But you can write your own image loader library if you want, so that for example, in some companies they don't allow you to use some third-party libraries in the application. So you can use the same Picasso or Fresco's SDK code inside your own application, and write your own library inside it. So even that is possible. So because they were sharing you the complete source code, so you can use either their source code, or you can simply get the library directly inside your workspace or into your project, and start using them. So the most of the options that were given by this particular Picasso is, there is some kind of problems when you actually load images inside the list view, because in a list view or in a grid view you may have any number of pictures. For example, in a grid view you may have 6 images. As you see in the top, you see the 6 images are loaded on the landscape. When you change it to portrait, there could be only 4 images loaded at a time. So all this could be very perfectly or very easily can be maintained or handled by Picasso. There is much work not included with the Picasso, and there is not much workaround you has to do before using the Picasso. You can then you can get into the Picasso's library and start pulling the images from any URLs you want. So the image transformations, it also helps you to do image transformations Like you can load, if you see Picasso.with is the context, I mean where you are actually doing it, and if you want to load the image, you just give the URL inside this load, and you can transform the image. Any image that comes out of your URL may be the same image or may not be with the same kind of height or same kind of width than the other image. There is always some kind of different images coming in the URL. For example, if you are on a Facebook application, you see your images are not with the same height and same width, but when you show them, or when the Facebook application, so excuse me guys, when the Facebook application shows you the images on the wall or on any kind of application or any kind of phone resolution, you see images are not cut down into the pieces, or they doesn't cover up some spaces, or it's perfectly fitting to that particular square or rectangular kind of space present on your phone. But how does this thing happening with the Facebook but not with the other applications if it is so hard to do? Firstly, whenever there is an image upload to a Facebook, so Facebook APIs were actually making different resolution of the same image at their server side, so that whenever you are going to load it on your device, you are getting the apt resolution image as per your device. So there is a different kind of technique, you can read it anywhere. I mean loading images in Facebook, or approach for loading the images on the Facebook, or similar like the Facebook, you can simply Google it anywhere and you can read the technique how they does, and there you can include some more effort that has to be done from server as well, because you can't resize the all images from your side and you can send them. That is going to be a huge amount of work that you do on a phone, so the image uploading will take so much time and your performance come down gradually. So it's always better that if there is no chance that you can't do anything, you can simply resize the images right then there with the Picasso using dot resize, and 50,50 are the pixels, so 50 pixels width and 50 pixels height, so you can resize it to any size if you had images with different resolutions. For example, I had a resolution image with 100 by 100 at some point, but I don't want to load it 100 by 100 image where I need a thumbnail with 50 by 50 size. So I can simply resize it to 50 by 50 size, so that I'm not wasting of so much of memory in the background, or I'm not squeezing it somewhere, or I'm not stretching it somewhere. So I may have, and you may have some doubts, like whenever there are images with thousands and thousands of resolution. For example, the profile pictures today we see, maybe a small thumbnail. For example, you upload a picture, profile picture to your Facebook profile or something. The profile picture that you show to everyone is a small thumbnail. It's not the image that you actually originally has been shared. It gets resized into a thumbnail size where you don't have the same size that image you actually uploaded. In this sense, the image which you uploaded has been resized into different resolutions to fit to the particular place. For example, if I has uploaded an image with 500 by 400 resolution, but the thumbnail which Facebook shows doesn't need that much amount of resolution, so it could resize your particular picture to any resolution. It could be 50 by 50 or 100 by 100 or 75 by 75. It could be any resolution. So it resizes your picture to, or it duplicates your picture to another resized picture, and it uses that picture to show a thumbnail, because you would waste so much of heap by simply showing the images that are huge on your phone, because your phone memory is very less, and you have to always make sure, even you had 2 GB RAM or hundreds or tons of memory on your mobile phone, still the application uses only 28 to 32 MB of your heap space, not more than that. So you have to do any image uploads or image downloads in that space and make your application be seamless at the same point. So if there is no point if you are not able to show that, and simply crashing the application because there are huge number of images coming into the application. So even you actually resize it at your side, it's big. Even I doubt that even you're resizing it at your side, but you're actually doing it after loading the images onto your disk. But that actually doesn't make any proper sense. Only to show you're making it resizable, but you already downloaded the image to your heap or to your cache or to your disk already, so which doesn't make any sense even though you resize it, so the size is not actually getting reduced. So it's always better that you actually make sure the image that coming out of your web service are properly coming and perfectly getting resized, and reducing the size at different places. So if they're gonna send you the same profile picture everywhere with the same kind of size and which is not different resizable, then there's gonna be a huge hit for your application in the real time. It's not easy when there are number of users present, and there will be different kind of requirements coming in, different kinds of mobiles the application running on, and different kinds of RAM sizes, and everything is different. So image loading is particularly very important. I mean, when the application has this feature, you have to make sure that you are actually going in a proper sense, and if you from the scratch itself. If you're gonna put up your socks at the end of the project, come on, that is gonna be a huge blow for a developer, and that is a whole redesigning of your application again. So of course that couldn't be something from the web app developer side, but there is some huge things coming up. Either you have to resize the image, or they has to resize the image. Resizing, I doesn't recommend resizing the image from here and sending it to the other part of the web application. I don't think so that there's a proper way you do it, because web applications will show the profile picture in a different way and a different sizes, and mobile applications will show the profile pictures in a different way and different sizes. So you have to maintain that sizes and the original picture without losing its crisp look, and without losing its content, and without losing its quality. So all those things comes into the picture, and the much of the mobile side you have to do is you have to make sure that you're gonna implement a good technique of loading images without always making an ANR status, or without eating up your heap memory a lot. Because if you keep on eating up your heap memory a lot, you start seeing ANR statuses, and you see the lagging happening on your application due to very busy RAM or very congested RAM. So one more point, and a lot of people get confused when they open up the options or the settings, and when they see, for example, I told them that the application uses only 28 to 32 MB of memory, but when you open up your settings and go to apps, you see the amount of memory that actually takes is different. For example, let me share my screen and show you. So for example, I told that it's only the 32 MB is the maximum memory that you can do, but if you see maps, it's 18 MB, or keyboard it's 13 MB, and settings it's 114 MB. So I can't tell you that it's something that because of a system app it's taking more huge memory. It's not that way. But if I had other applications where it could be taking more than this much RAM, or it could be taking huge RAM, you can simply open up your phone, you can check your Facebook, and Facebook would be taking around 100 and more MB. But how is that possible? Because the RAM which is present is actually shared, or the same space which is given for you. For example, there is Facebook application and Twitter application in your phone, so each had been allotted with 32 MB. So that doesn't mean that if Twitter is not using 32 MB, it is using only 10 MB, other 22 MB is got wasted for Twitter. No, it's not that. It's not in that way. Instead, it gets shared among other applications. So that is why you see that each and every application will go out of 32 MB, and it could get into some hundreds and 200s of MBs as well. So that is because the same RAM will be shared among different processors or different applications. So you see this app RAM usage. Now the settings process has got 89 MB. For as per my my previous word I told you, it is only 32 MB. But where does this 90 MB come from? So there is not only settings being used, it could be used by any other application. It is shared among them. So as per now, you see the app RAM usage is showing you the whole shared memory. In the sense, settings, the same app memory could be shared by settings, by the same application, or some other photo application, or any other application that comes in. So it's actually calculated, or it's combination of all the three processes or three apps together. That is why you see 89, 90, 100 MB. So don't ever get confused or think that it's just not a rumor or just not a myth. It's actually the fact that your application will have only 32 MB and not more than that in a heap. So that is how you have to understand that. And let's get back to this features of this Picasso. So you can, as we seen in the previous tutorial, the center crop and the center XY matrix, fit XY, fit center, fit start, fit end, center, inside, all those scale types are also supported with the Picasso, and you can use any of the scale type you want to use to this, and you can make your image look good enough to that particular size. And coming to this other transformations feature, you can give the advanced effects to your particular bitmap, whether by calculating its height and size, and you can recycle it, and you can give it square kind of transformation. If your image is having a different kind of image size, then you want to crop it into a square, then you can get a square transformation. And you can use any kind of transformation here, which was given a little bit of examples here. And the placeholders is the most important part when you want to show people that this particular image is getting downloaded, or it doesn't download it, or it didn't download because of some error. Because this placeholder will help you to show the user some image that it could be a loading image, or it could be a small image, empty image, so that it could be replaced after. Because as I told you, when you are getting the image from URL, generally takes time to download it from the URL and set it back to the image view. So meanwhile, you can show user any kind of image instead of leaving it blank, or instead of leaving it empty. You can use any kind of placeholder image in order to understand, or in order to make the user understand that yes, there is some picture going to come here, so please wait. Or you can show him loading there, or you can show some empty image there. Empty image in the sense something which is a default image you want to show. And later then, if you had some way or some other way, the URL didn't have image in it because of some other issue at the server side, so then you can show a error image, or another kind of image view where the placeholder error has occurred, so that the user understands that yes, some image hasn't downloaded because of some issue with the URL. So it is something making the user understand what actually happened, because you simply show him white space there and you download it somewhere or some point of time. User don't understand what is going on inside the application, whether it's loading the application, or it's loading the image or not, or did it die, or it didn't download anything, or it's loading still. And how could you actually show these things to the user is only through the placeholder and this error. So you can put the placeholder some image and put to the some other image to the error, in order to make user understand that this particular image has been not loaded, or this image has been loading. And the best part of the Picasso is a request will be retried 3 times before the error placeholder is shown. So the request actually shows, I mean, if there is some problem with the image, it actually tries 3 tries in order to make the image, maybe because that happened because of some issue in the network at that point of time, or because of some other any other issue that user didn't know. So it tries 3 times before it places a error placeholder for you. So error placeholder will be displayed only before you actually see that the image has not downloaded at all. So, and resource loading. So resource loading is very easy here. So you can not only loading some images from the URL, but you can also load those images from your local place as well. For something like, you can use drawable as we actually did in our code in the previously, using this. Let me see that. What is that? Okay, that's a different place. So here we actually loaded the same kind of image here using set drawable kind of thing, which is by default, but you can use Picasso as well for the same kind of application, and you can simply put r.drawable.land screen into this. So whatever you load here, it could be a local image, or that could be from a file, or that could be from this SD card. You just give the path there, and you get it and load it to the image view. And not only image view, Picasso doesn't only load it to the image view. You can option of putting a normal view and making it at a target for the image view, and because sometimes the layout, linear layout needs some kind of background picture to get loaded. So this may come from the this may needs to be loaded dynamically from the URL, from the space, or from the SD card. So for them as well, you don't only need to put the image view. You can't put a linear layout, or you can't make a linear layout an image view. So how could you do that? But you can set some image view to the linear layout. So you can put instead of image view, you can make the linear layout as simple view, and you can give that view here and cast that as a target. So that when you make that, it will simply make that particular layout background visible with the image view. So it also actually gives you the debug indicators, so which means that whenever, I think you are able to see that here, and when you see it here, there is a red icon or red kind of color that you see here for an image. So this indicates that this particular image has been loaded from network, but not from the disk, or but not from the memory. But whenever this particular color changes to, and this comes for the very first time, I mean when you are loading this image for very first time, it shows you this red color, which means that it just got downloaded from the network, and it's directly pointing from the network. But when it comes to this lavender color or blue color, it shows, or it gives you blue color when this particular image is loaded from the disk but not directly from the network. In the sense, now when it is in disk, or when it is in memory, or memory in the sense when it is in memory cache, it gives you a representation of green, which means that now when you're trying to load the same image using the same URL, it doesn't get it from the network, but it get it from the disk, or it get it from the memory. So when you want to get it from the network, which the same image which was already got it from the network and is in the disk, now Picasso will not make another call to get it from the network. Instead, it will pull it off from the disk, or it will pull it off from the memory in order to show the image right then, right there, without any delay. So that is why when there are images already loaded in your application, so when the same image has to show in some other place, even though there is no net connection, you can see the same image shown in different places because it's already there in the cache, or it's already there in the disk or memory. So it actually, or the application will pull it from there and will be showing it to you. So this indicator is actually set at the application level. Just putting the set indicator enabled false or true, it will simply help you to finish off this. I mean, this color can be removed when the set enabled is done false. It simply goes off, and when you put true, and it shows you this kind of color representations. So It's not something very tough to do. Whenever it's in a developer environment or something, if developer wants to know what's going on, whether it's getting it from the network or it's getting it from the disk or it's getting it from the web memory, it's easy that you do it using the same indicators, where when you give it to the user or when you're going to release it to the production or pre-production, it's always better you make it false or make that flag false to simply make that gone. So let's start that doing, and what you simply need to do is you have to in order to use this library, you have to copy this Gradle line here and add it to your Gradle. For example, we are doing that to our list view. So go to project and you actually have build.gradle here, where the compile lines in the dependencies, you can use this. So if you want more tutorials on that one, you can simply go to the GitHub here, which was given the link, and you can contribute something to them, or you can simply get the code